In the middle of January, and with Imbolc just around the corner, I decided that it was the perfect time for me to reflect on my past year before embarking on a new beginning. There was much that I wanted to do in 2023 but just never got around to doing for one reason or another. I wish that I was more organised. I should have been more productive. I really should have done more in progressing my career, and I certainly should have paid those bills on time. But what I seemed to neglect the most was my creativity. I've spent a lot of my childhood undertaking various craft projects, whether it be baking, painting or making out of clay. If I was able to make something, I'd find any and every excuse to do so. So that was one thing I decided that I really wanted to focus on this year, was to be creative once again and become the artist that little Laura had always hoped I'd be. One thing I had achieved this past year, however, was discovering witchcraft. I recently moved away from my best friends and into a faraway land, the ever beautiful Wales, and together the three of us created our own tiny little coven as a way for us to explore ways of experimenting with our witchcraft and ultimately spend more time together. It was then that I learned about Imbolc, a festival for cleansing, growth and renewal, and came to the conclusion that there was no better way for me to celebrate this wonderful time of year than to visit the ocean, and not just because I live close by. So one day I packed my walking shoes, some snacks, an umbrella just in case, and also a pair of sunglasses just in case. I'm a very optimistic person, despite it being the middle of January. I made my way to the beach. One thing I am very passionate about and that I hold dear to my heart is protecting this wonderful world of ours, and I will, to the best of my ability, do anything that I can to ensure I am reusing recyclable materials and being kind to nature. I reflected on this as I walked along the rocky sand, observing my feet as I clambered about, as a way of mindfulness as well as ensuring that I don't fall over. I was pleasantly surprised when I came across an array of stunning seashells, seaweed, bits of pottery and the most beautiful sea glass. Each piece was wonderful and unique in its own way, and I thought it would be a wonderful idea to take just a few select pieces home with me, to turn into bespoke jewellery, to transform a once loved but now discarded old glass bottle or broken plate into something that could be loved once again. I reflected on how this is symbolic of Imbolc, and how a piece of broken glass, once regarded as merely detritus along the shoreline, is washed and churned and transmogrified into an entirely different thing, to be born again. After I collected my chosen pieces, white glass to represent the melting snow and green for the returning life, I took off my shoes and dipped my toes into the freezing cold ocean and felt the waves wash away my past year and the salt water cleanse my soul.